A single signature, a moment of silence in a grand hall at Versailles. This was meant to be the end of the war, to end all wars. But instead of peace, the Treaty of Versailles sowed the seeds of a far greater conflict. Imagine a nation on its knees, burdened by impossible debts and stripped of its pride. Then picture the world plunging into the Great Depression. Savings vanished, factories closed, and despair became the air people breathed. In this climate of chaos and anger, a charismatic voice emerged in Germany, promising to restore national glory and economic stability. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party didn't just seize power. They were welcomed by a population desperate for a savior, channeling widespread resentment into a terrifying new ideology. The stage was set not for recovery, but for revenge. The world, exhausted and distracted, watched as the gears of a new war machine began to turn, faster and faster, grinding towards a future no one could truly fathom. By 1939, the world held its breath. Then, on September 1st, the storm broke over Poland. This wasn't warfare as the world knew it. This was something new, something terrifyingly fast. It was called Blitzkrieg, the lightning war. Columns of panzer tanks, unstoppable steel beasts, punched through enemy lines, while Stuka dive bombers, their sirens screaming like birds of prey, terrorized soldiers and civilians alike. The strategy was simple but brutal: shock, speed, and encirclement. But there was another, darker secret fueling this seemingly superhuman advance. A little pill called Pervitin, a methamphetamine that kept German soldiers awake for days, fighting without rest, pushing them beyond the limits of human endurance. Poland fell in weeks. The world was stunned. The so-called phony war followed, a period of eerie quiet on the Western Front. But it was just the calm before an even greater storm. In May 1940, the Blitzkrieg was unleashed again, this time against France and the Low Countries, bypassing the heavily fortified Maginot Line and proving that old tactics were no match for this new, relentless form of warfare. The German war machine had seemed invincible. After smashing through the Ardennes Forest, a move the Allies thought impossible, panzer divisions raced to the English Channel, cutting off the British Expeditionary Force and French armies from the rest of France. Over 300,000 soldiers were trapped, their backs to the sea, pinned down on the beaches of a small French port town called Dunkirk. A feat seemed not just likely, but inevitable. Hitler's generals prepared for the final crushing blow. The situation was catastrophic. It looked like the end for the entire British army. But then something extraordinary happened. From across the Channel, a call went out, and Britain answered, not just with warships, but with an armada of fishing boats, yachts, merchant marine vessels, and pleasure craft. Hundreds of small civilian boats, steered by ordinary people, sailed into a war zone, raiding bombs and artillery fire. This impromptu fleet, this flotilla of courage, became known as the Miracle of Dunkirk. Day and night, under constant attack from the Luftwaffe, these little ships shuttled back and forth, ferrying soldiers from the beaches to the larger naval vessels waiting offshore. The Royal Air Force fought desperately in the skies above to provide cover, in what became one of the first major air battles of the war. It was chaos, heroism, and sheer determination rolled into one. The evacuation, codenamed Operation Dynamo, was a logistical nightmare turned into a triumph of improvisation. What was expected to be a rescue of maybe 45,000 men became a rescue of over 338,000. It was a retreat, a military disaster in strategic terms. But for the British people, it was a symbol of defiance, a spiritual victory pulled from the jaws of absolute defeat. The Dunkirk spirit was born, a testament to a nation's will to survive against all odds. These rescued soldiers would form the battle-hardened core of the army that would eventually fight its way back into Europe. While Britain celebrated the miracle of survival, the strategic reality was grim. The fall of France, came swiftly after Dunkirk. On June 22, 1940, in the very same railway car where Germany had surrendered in 1918, France signed an armistice. It was a moment of profound humiliation, carefully staged by Hitler for maximum effect. Paris, the city of light, was now occupied. With France defeated, a new and terrifying world order was taking shape. Nazi Germany was the master of continental Europe. From the shores of Norway to the Spanish border, the swastika flag flew. Across the English Channel, Britain stood utterly alone. It was isolated, facing the full might of the Nazi war machine, which now gathered its strength for the final invasion. The United States remained neutral, held back by a powerful isolationist sentiment. Many believed the war in Europe was over, and that Britain's defeat was only a matter of time. The future of freedom and democracy rested on this one island nation, braced for the impending assault. The early years of the war had concluded, not with peace, but with a lone holdout against a seemingly unstoppable tide of tyranny. The stage was set for the Battle of Britain, the next desperate chapter in the world's fight for survival. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into history compelling, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world.